I'm here with Christophe Didier, General Manager Brazil for Etihad Airways. Didier, Etihad has direct flights from Brazil to the United Arab Emirates. Tell us about the frequency of these flights and the passenger numbers.
We began operating daily, non-stop flights between São Paulo and Abu Dhabi in June of 2013. So it will be 2 years next month. And I would say that the volume in our first full year, just so you have an idea, was more or less of 120,000 passengers. And now, we are already on the order of 150,000 passengers per year. In other words, it is going very well. The occupancy rate up to this point in 2015 has been 80%, which is considered very good for aviation standards.
Do you have data on business between Arabs and Brazilians?
Actually, Etihad is a global company, which means that the company does not take passengers from point A to point B, like São Paulo to Abu Dhabi, and stays in that region. The fact is that we have a hub, a connection platform in Abu Dhabi, and then take passengers to any part of the world. This is obviously based on the geographic position of São Paulo and Abu Dhabi, and, I would say, on the cultural ties that Brazil has with other countries, not only in the Middle East and the Far East. We have more passengers today that go to China, Japan, and the Far East. What happens is that 50% of passengers currently travel to that part of the world. But the good news for our listeners and members here is that Etihad is focused on truly developing the traffic between Brazil and Arab countries. So, to begin with, just so you have an idea, we had about 2% of passengers who traveled between São Paulo and Abu Dhabi. Today, we have more than 6%. And when you consider not only the United Arab Emirates, but I would say all Arab countries, before we were really at about 5%. Meanwhile, today we have passed the 6% margin, while our ultimate goal is to one day reach 20% of Arab passengers. I don't think you'll ever go much past this level, because when you consider the importance of the Japanese, Chinese, and even Korean communities in Brazil, it will be difficult to surpass this number. But our initial goal would still be to reach 20% of our business with Arab countries.
Is there any benefits offered to Brazilian passengers?
Well, anyone who travels between Brazil and the rest of the world knows that air travel in recent years does not always provide the best experience, especially after September 11, when many companies cut benefits and services to be offered on board. Etihad understood very well what passengers were looking for. In fact, we don't even call our customers passengers. We call them guests. And Etihad went in a different direction. The company said, no, I want to capture new business. I want to take advantage of the most modern technology available today. We have aircraft that allow 14 or 15 hours of non-stop travel, of direct flight, and we are going to try to take passengers from one side of the world to the other with the best product possible, making the person feel as though they were at home. So obviously, since Etihad is focused on its service, and is not like other companies that say this, but do not always have the same focus, Etihad wants to have the best economy class, the best business class, the best first class, and does everything to achieve this. And the company has received important awards, which ultimately prove that it is on the right path.
Can you tell us a little about the Etihad participation at the Expo Milan 2015?
This is a very interesting topic. Well, for those who have not yet been to Abu Dhabi, the Emirate of Abu Dhabi truly wants to position itself as a cultural capital of the world. It not only built an economic and business base there, but it also wants to be a global reference with regard to culture, education, health, and I don't know if you know this, but Abu Dhabi is currently building the only Louvre museum outside of Paris. They are also building a Guggenheim museum. They are building a total of 4 museums in Abu Dhabi. So, getting back to Milan, the Expo Milano, which is a universal exposition that is held every 5 years, including the last one, which was in Shanghai in 2010, if I remember. Now in Milan in 2015, and it will be held in Dubai in 2020, precisely in the United Arab Emirates. So what happens, getting back to the subject a little, is that Etihad has 3 pillars. The first pillar is one of organic growth, of buying aircraft and serving more markets around the world, and connecting any point, our clients, our guests, to any point in the world. The company's second pillar is what we call code share. making agreements with other airline companies precisely in order to provide a trip to any place. We currently fly to 111 destinations, but with the code share agreements we have with Gol here in Brazil, for example, a passenger can go from São Paulo to Rio de Janeiro, to Brasília, to Manaus, to Porto Alegre, to any place. With Aerolíneas Argentinas, they can go to Buenos Aires and beyond. So we have this type of code share agreement so the passenger can connect and reach any destination in the world. And we already have almost 500 destinations around the world with these code share agreements. And a third pillar of the company, and here we get back to the Expo Milano, is making agreements where the company purchases shares in other airline companies. Today we have an agreement with Air Seychelles, with Virgin Australia, with Jet Airways in India, which is a very important market for Etihad, since India is a market in enormous expansion. We also have one with Aer Lingus in Ireland, one with Air Berlin in Germany, Jet Airways, which is a Serbian company, and now we have Etihad Regional, which is Swiss, and Alitalia, in which Etihad bought 49% of shares at the end of last year. So now we don't have a partnership, but share ownership in Alitalia. And since the Emirate of Abu Dhabi is also focused on culture, it was natural that Etihad would associate itself with Alitalia and have a joint pavilion at the Expo Milano, which just opened and will remain open for 6 months, until October, I believe. So hence the project. It is a very interesting sustainability project. I have not been there yet, but I will be taking a few clients for a visit soon.
Sustentabilidade, muito legal. Ainda não fui lá, mas eu pretendo levar alguns clientes lá para conhecer.
Thank you very much, Christophe.
Thank you, Lucila.